Fida, can you tell me if I could start, please?
We have 10 attendees. Can we give them at least like 2-3 minutes more?
Sure. Let's wait a little bit more. Okay, thank you. Okay, Fida, do you mind if I start now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our workshop on academic writing and presentation skills for higher education. My name is Daniela, and I'm currently an assistant professor of education here at Abu Dhabi University at the Department of Education and the College of Arts and Sciences. And with us, we have Alvina Ashraf. Alvina, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So good evening, everyone. My name is Alvina Ashraf. I'm a second-year student majoring in business management, and I hope to interact with all of you in today's workshop.
All right, thank you so much, Alvina. So today we are going to cover some aspects of academic writing and presentation skills for higher education. So the focus is high school students. We expect that most of the people we have here, the participants we have here, would be high school students interested in developing their academic writing skills to embrace higher education here in the UAE. We have planned quite a few interactive activities for you where you are going to be asked to participate, to share your views, your opinions. You are going to watch videos, you are going to play a game. Therefore, we would like you to have with you another device, a mobile phone, or perhaps an iPad, a tablet that you could use to interact with us. I will show you how to do that in my next slide, okay? Before that, it is very important for me and Alvina to tell you that this workshop could never, ever cover all aspects of academic writing and presentation skills in only 1 hour. That would be impossible because it's such a complex group of skills that for some students it takes weeks, sometimes months to master. However, we will try to focus on reviewing perhaps the key elements of these two skills. Probably you already know them from high school, but we will try to reinforce what you already know so that you feel a little bit more comfortable to embrace the challenges of an English medium university. All right, so let me show you now how to join us and how to interact with us during the presentation. So by now you should see in front of you on your screen a QR code, which you should be allowed to scan if you have a QR code reader, or you can go to your browser, type in menti.com, and then enter the code that you see there. So while you're doing that, I'm going to make a little bit of talking to give you time to enter the code. I'll explain that with this, you will be able to, for example, see the slides that you have in front of you. You will see them on your phone as well, and you can react to those slides by, clicking on a thumbs up, a heart, a question mark, and you also will have an ask a question button if you want to write your questions and interact with us. Other than that, you will also be able to join us in our interactive activities by using menti.com, okay? Don't worry if you didn't get the code right now, because Miss Fida, our moderator here, she will have by now posted on the Zoom chat the code again and the address there so that you can join. And whenever there is an activity, an interactive activity, the code will appear at the top of the activity. So I think that if you don't join right now, there won't be a problem when you are to join the interactive activities. All right. Okay, I hope you're ready. If you didn't see the screen, go to the chat on Zoom and check the code, okay? So I'm going to continue if that is okay with you. And I'm going to cover what exactly is it that we would like to do. We would like you to be able to do by the end of this workshop. We hope that by the end of this workshop, all the participants will be able to at least have a general understanding of the general features of academic writing and presentations for university success. So I can see already some of you already interacting with us, which is good. It's a sign that you were able to see the code. Don't forget, go to Zoom chat to check the code there again if you haven't had a chance to see it before. Now, before we start with the heaviest part of the presentation of the workshop, let me give you some recommendations, okay? The first one is that if you have questions during the presentation, you can ask your questions in two ways. The first one is by using the Ask a Question button on menti.com, and your questions will pop up here for me to see them and to answer your questions, for me and Alvina to see them. But of course, I won't be able to stop every time there is a question. I will stop after a couple of slides to address all the questions, okay? Now, if you prefer to ask your questions by speaking, or in those occasions where we actually will ask you to speak, we would like you to use the raise hand button on Zoom, okay? So to summarize, written questions, use menti.com and the button that says ask a question. For spoken questions, use the raise hand button on Zoom, all right? Remember, there will be a lot of interactive activities, so keep an eye on menti.com to be able to interact with us. And just to note that this session is going to be recorded, is actually being recorded as we speak. Okay, so let me go through the two parts of this presentation. We'll have these two parts. The first part will be delivered by me. I will cover academic writing, and you will have, as I keep saying, interactive activities along the presentation, and then a moment for question and answers if we have time. If not, we will leave all the questions to the end. And then Alvina will be covering and delivering part two. She's going to cover presentation skills. She also has some interactive activities in store for you, a video, a game, and then a period for questions and answers. Hopefully everything will go as planned and within the time. So nothing better than asking you another question for you to join us and try and test how menti.com works. All right, so I have a question for you. Are you ready for the workshop? Please use menti.com to answer. If you don't see it there, if you don't have the code, again, it's up there. You can see menti.com and the code above. All right, so people are saying, yes, let's do this. I'm so excited to start. Okay, that's good. Remember, you have at the top, you have menti.com and the code if you want to join us. Don't be shy, join us, share your views. You're ready, okay, so people seem to be ready and excited to start, so let's do that, okay? Let's start with academic writing. When we were preparing our workshop, Alvina and I we tried as much as possible to put ourselves in the shoes of the participants that had decided to attend this workshop. So we kind of put together a number of questions that we thought the students would like to have answers for by attending the workshop. Here are some of the questions which we hope will give you answers to by the end of the workshop. One of them is, what is academic writing? I doubt that not many of you know what academic writing is, but we can debate and discuss a couple of details related to the definition of academic writing. We will go through main features of academic writing, how you can improve your academic writing skills, how can you transfer this knowledge of academic writing into other skills, and how academic writing can prepare you, for example, for the workplace. So hopefully we will have answers for these questions by the end of this session. Now, let me start with another question for you, a warm-up question. I want to ask you if you like writing in general. I'm not talking about academic writing. I'm talking about writing in general, a poem, a journal, or are you the kind of person who, when you send a message on WhatsApp, do you prefer to record it because you don't really like writing, or do you just write the message? You prefer to write it? So I can see that most of the answers are on the yes side, if not all the answers, I mean, all the answers are on the yes side. So that's good. It makes our life much easier because you are very open to this workshop and you're happy about writing. Good. Okay. So you like writing. Good. Another question now is, how about writing academic texts? Do you feel a little bit more unsure about you know, the skills required for academic writing, or you're fine, you're okay? Okay, I can see a no coming up, so that's good to know that, you know, we all have our own tastes and preferences, and sometimes there are certain skills that are a little bit harder for us. So I'm going to wait a little bit more for more answers. Okay. But still the majority keeps saying that they do write, like writing academic texts. Okay, good. Again, you are making our workshop quite easy for us. Good, good. Thank you for your answers. Now I have one more question for you. I would like you to think about the definition of academic writing. If you could define academic writing in only 3 words, which would be those words that you would use to define academic writing? You go to menti.com, write those words, and then they will appear here on the screen. Don't forget that if you don't have the code, go to Zoom, to the chat on Zoom, and the code to join us will be there. Formal, very good. Informative, good. Let's wait for more answers. Again, formal, good. Let's wait for a couple more answers. To explain, yes. To evaluate, to explore, informative. Exaggerated, that's interesting. Okay. Formative again. To evaluate. Reliable, I like that word. Skills, yes, okay. So you have to have a certain set of skills. Okay, good. Any other words? I'm gonna wait a little bit more. Yes, okay. Again, informative, impactful. Yes, I like that word. Very good. Innovative. Yes. Hard work. Yeah, definitely. To write an academic text, you need hard work. That's true for sure. Mistake-free. Very good. This will be something that we will cover in my last slide. That's very good. Very good. Okay, great. So, now that you have shared with me your understanding of academic writing, or some of the words that you use to define academic writing, and some of them are still popping up, I will now show you the definition of academic writing that I would like you to have into consideration during our workshop, okay? So according to Macmillan Dictionary, academic writing is this formal and factual style of writing that is used for essays, research papers, and other academic texts. Definitely, I would like to call your attention to the words formal and factual. That was one of the words that popped up first when you were asked to share your own words related to academic writing. Definitely it needs to be very formal, very professional, and academic, right? Academic means to be very, very formal. And then it needs to be factual. I'd like to explore this word a little bit more. So factual here is, you know, not emotional, based on evidence, based on references, based on facts that supports the claims that you are making. And it's also possible that you will find there technical language, a lot of technical language related to the field you are writing about, right? I think that in a couple of words, in simpler words than the ones here presented, it could be any piece of writing that you produce for school, college or university or for research purposes, okay? So now that you heard the definition and we talked about some of these words, formal, factual, and so on, I would like to invite you to do an activity with me, which will be in the next slide. So I'd like you to look at this sample of academic writing. This is a piece of writing produced by our co-presenter, Alvina. Okay, so she wrote this text as part of a business report that she had to produce for one of the courses here at Abu Dhabi University. And she was kind enough to share it with me so that I could share an example of academic writing. What I would like you to do is to look at these two texts and try to find features of academic writing in these two texts. So they're just little parts and they will be enough for you to find certain features. So the question in your mind should be, how can I see that this is an academic writing piece? So how are we going to do this? You have about 2 minutes to read it. And then I will allow some of you to speak and share your views on why this is an academic writing piece and pinpoint 1 or 2 features of academic writing. Okay, so I'm going to start the countdown here. 1 minute, 2 minutes to allow you to read the texts, and then I will listen to your input. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 more minute. Okay, it wasn't really 1 minute, but I hope you had time to read part of this text. So what we're going to do now is that I would like the first 2 people raising their hands on Zoom to share their views, their input on why this is an academic writing piece. Okay, so raise your hand on Zoom if you would like to participate, please. And I think Ms. Fida is going to tell me if there are any people raising their hands, any participants. Ms. Fida, anybody?
Yes, Doctor, I'm with you. Nobody is raising the hand yet.
Okay, okay. Maybe some of them are a little bit shy. Or they prefer to write on the chat. Let me just open the chat. Okay, I see that some of them are writing their answers there. High level of vocabulary, covering all points of the topic, giving figures and facts. Well done. Very good, Hussam. Very good. This is definitely some of the features here. Good. Thank you for sharing. Anybody would like to talk? Don't be shy. It's fine. No? If you prefer not to talk, you can write. Formal structure. Very good. Okay, I can see Fatin has raised her hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you please unmute yourself?
Okay.
Fatin, can you please unmute yourself?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Fatin. Hello, hello. So tell us, what did you find?
Well, I found that it's a reliable academic writing since they have used the references, and they used also some statistics from 2005 to 2019, which looks as a informative academic writing. Is this what you're asking?
Yes, I am. Yes, that's what I'm asking for. Very good, Fatin. Excellent. Anything else that you would like to share? No?
Thank you. This
Okay,
is
right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else raising their hand or writing their answers in the chat? Go ahead. It's fine. Don't be shy. We'll still have time. So 2 participants raised their hands. Feda, could you please help me with knowing who they are? I just see that it's 2 participants, but I cannot see their names. Could you call out their names, please?
Yeah, Fatin is still raising her hand, and we have Tanzil. So Tanzil,
Okay, Tanzil.
please unmute yourself. You're allowed to talk.
Thank you, Tanzil. Thank you, Feda.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Tanzil. Yes, we can hear you. Yes, go ahead, please.
Doctor, what I see over here is that the marketing strategies have been built and it's all based on the strategy, the formal strategies, how to plan, how to work.
Okay, so do you mean that Alvina used here technical language and use the knowledge in the field to make it, to refer to be able to do the business report she did? Is that what you mean, Tanzil?
Yeah, exactly, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. That's correct. Very good. Okay, so
Thank you.
So I think I'm going to go now, move on to the next slide, where I'm going to share with you my views, my input on why this is academic writing. So pretty much all of the participants who participated have already mentioned some of the features of academic writing. I'm just going to summarize them and organize them, okay? And for that, I'm going to show the first picture a little bit bigger so that you can understand what I'm referring to, okay? So as you can see here, one of the things that you see immediately there, and that's something that Tanzil actually just mentioned, is that there's technical terms being used here. Look at how Alvina used words such as lack of demand, debt crisis, customers and investors, revenue, and all these technical terms related to her business report. So she was very meticulous in trying to use the appropriate terms related to the field she was writing the academic piece about, okay? So that's one feature that is present here that tells us that this text is academic, okay? Number two is the formal language. So you will see things like due to, unwilling. Someone was saying before, I can't remember who the name of the person, but it was mentioned in the chat that formal vocabulary and advanced vocabulary is used. This is one of the examples. Due to here, it could simply be a because, right? But no, Alvina used an advanced word that will make it more academic and formal. Unwilling could be simply not wanting, but Alvina chose unwilling because it's more academic and advanced English. So that's feature number two, formal language there. Number three, if you look at the first sentence of the second paragraph, it says, so-and-so has to find a solution for its problem. So this is sort of an opinion disguised. So Alvina has a personal opinion. She wants to say that a solution needs to be found, but she's not using a personal emotional language. She keeps her distance and uses neutral language. So that's something we should avoid also in academic writing. Try not to use expressions like I think that. So we try not to be that personal. There are exceptions. We'll talk about these exceptions later on. But she tried to give opinions by making them neutral and distant. Another feature, that's number four, is, and I'm sure that for high school students, they for sure, their teachers are mentioning this all the time in the English composition classes or in the general English classes. Each paragraph needs to focus only on one idea. And you will see here that Alvina has focused her first paragraph on a problem, saying that there is a problem with this company. And then she, in the second paragraph, she focuses on the solution. So she wants to make sure that people understand that a solution is needed, but she separates the ideas. First paragraph, the problem, second paragraph, solutions are required, okay? So that's another feature there. I have two more. One of them is connective devices, conjunctions, and so on. So we see, for example, one conjunction here, as so-and-so is building new properties, so on. And then we have one here, in addition. This is very important because it gives flow to your text. It gives a connection between the ideas, unity, coherence, and we feel that we are following an organized text here, okay? So using connectors, or connective devices are important as well. Finally, and I'm going to go back to the previous slide to mention this one, I'm going to mention what Fatin has said. She made a very good point when she mentioned that there's a graph, there's dates, there's numbers, so there's factual language. And if you see in brackets here, you will have here an outside source, a reference, an author that was mentioned here as a source of information that has expertise in this field. And so by mentioning this information and this outside source, this adds credibility to Alvina's claims in her report and definitely makes it very, very academic and professional and formal and factual and all those words related to academic writing. Okay, so that's all from the analysis that I made from this sample of academic writing. So now that I mentioned these features, which I hope were clear, I would like to invite you to answer one more question based on what I have just said about the features of these pieces of information, pieces of text that we saw here, okay? So I would like you to use menti.com and answer this question. Which are not features of academic writing? So you have 6 there: formality, precision, colloquialism, abbreviations, objectivity, emotions. And I would like you to choose the ones you think are not features of academic writing. I think you might choose, because there's more than one possible answer, I think you are able to choose more than one. If not, just choose one that you are sure it's not a feature of academic writing, okay? You will not be able to see the answers yet. I will show the answers at the end so that you don't get influenced by the others' answers, okay? So which ones are not features of academic writing? Formality, precision, colloquialism, maybe a tricky word here, abbreviations, objectivity, emotions. I will wait a little bit. And I'm also going to check the chat to see if some of you prefer to use the chat. Okay, so Prince definitely gave the correct answer. One of the correct answers, well done. I'm sorry that you are not able to join us using menti.com. Okay. I'm going to wait a little bit more for more answers. And then I'll show the results. Okay, some answers are still popping up, so I'll wait a little bit more. I'm going to check the chat. Okay. Okay, Prince, I can see your comments. If you cannot, just scroll up the chat and you will have the link and the code you can use to join Mentimeter, okay? I hope this helps. All right, we have 9 answers. I'm going to show the results now. Okay, different answers. Definitely emotions. Yes, okay. It seems to be one of the top ones chosen here. There are some correct and incorrect answers, but it's fine. This is why we're here, so that we learn which ones are the correct and the incorrect ones. Okay, but I can see that definitely emotions and abbreviations were the preferred ones as not features of academic writing. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to stop the voting here, close the voting. Okay, and we are going to see the answers to these questions now in the next slide. So let's go one by one here. Formality, of course, is a feature of academic writing, as we have seen in the definition of academic writing. And in so many of your answers when I asked you to look at the text that we analyzed. So it's important that we use academic, professional, formal language and not day-to-day language that we use with our friends, our family, our people that work with us. So formality is a feature. So this would not be the correct answer, okay? Precision. Precision is a feature of academic writing as well. It's very important that you use precise, clear language, you use numbers, you use facts, and that your language is never vague. It needs to be very, very clear, okay? So formality and precision are features of academic writing. Now, colloquialism is not a feature of academic writing. Some of you might not know the meaning. It's kind of an advanced word term for, it means simply the language that we use in day-to-day life, the language that we use with our friends, with our families. So colloquialism is not a feature of academic writing. So you should not use colloquialism in your academic writing. Now, how about abbreviations and contractions? I think Prince was the one who mentioned this in the chat, and he was saying that abbreviations and contractions are not a feature of academic writing, and he is right. Abbreviations is when we, for example, we have don't, that's an abbreviation, but in academic writing, we should use do not, okay? So there are some people, you know, we start seeing sometimes in academic writing one or two instances of abbreviations, and people are trying not to be that serious about this. However, as a teacher, I'm quite strict and try to teach my students to be strict in their choice of words and try to avoid abbreviations. Later on in their masters, in their PhDs, in their researches, in their articles, they should avoid abbreviations. So it's better to start right from the beginning, right? So abbreviations and contractions are not a feature of academic writing. Objectivity, well, it is a feature of academic writing. So you need to make sure that you go straight to the point and you don't waste time with long, unrelated sentences or paragraphs that do not go straight to the point, especially in English academic writing. In English, writers should go really straight to the point. So objectivity is a feature of academic writing. Now, empathy and emotions was the winner in our previous question when I asked you this, and most of you said, no, you should not use emotions. Well, definitely true. Empathy and emotions are not a feature of academic writing. However, if you are asked in your school, in your college or university to write an opinion essay, it's possible that some emotions and personal language will be there, or even a personal narrative. So there are instances where emotions are allowed in specific types of academic writing, okay? But you should avoid them, all right? Okay, so I'm going to repeat. Colloquialism, abbreviations, and empathy and emotions are not features of academic writing. Okay, I hope it was clear. I'm now going to invite you to do another activity, but for this one, I actually would like to add a little bit of competition, okay? So what I will have next is 4 sentences, and I would like you to tell me which ones are don'ts of academic writing. So some of them are do's, some of them are don'ts of academic writing, okay? So because there's a bit of a competition touch here, I would like you to join by writing your name or nickname, and I can see some of you are already there. That's good. I will wait for some more to join us, and then I will start with the question. Anyone else would like to join? Okay, Tanzil is saying it's becoming interested. Good. Okay, I can see he likes a little bit of competition. Okay. Okay. Hassan, I can see you raised your hand. I will address your question later on. Okay. For now, I would like people to participate in this question. Okay, this little quiz. Okay, more people are joining. I'm going to wait a little bit more. We have 14 participants now. I'm going to wait a little bit more. Okay, one more. All right, one more. And I think I'm going to start. I hope it's okay. Oh, we had another one. Let me see. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start now. You will now see the question in front of you on your mobile phone. So let me just touch the screen and the question will appear. So which of these sentences below represents a don't in academic writing? So you have about 50 seconds, read the sentences and choose the ones that are don'ts, please. You have 25 seconds. Hassan, you will be able to read them if you join menti.com, Hassan, okay? I can see your comment on chat. If you join, you will be able to read them on your phone. Okay, 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and time's up. Let's see the results. Okay, all right, okay. So you can see the correct and wrong answers. We can see that there was only one that was a do, which is the second sentence. All of the others were don'ts of academic writing. And let's see who the winner was for this first question here. Just go to the next slide. Let's see. So we have a winner, and the winner is, I think, okay, Cynthia was the fastest and with the most correct answers. Well done, Cynthia. Very good, very good. Well done. Now I'm going to show you the next slide where I'm going to explain why they were do's and don'ts. Okay, let me go there. Okay, so let's explain in detail why some of them were do's and don'ts, especially the last one that nobody picked, and it is actually a don't. So number one, well, you see, I don't think people should use any plastic products. First of all, it's a don't because you have abbreviations here. You have personal language, you have a personal opinion. But again, if it was an opinion essay, this would be perfectly fine. And you have colloquial language, so day-to-day language. Well, you see, so this is not appropriate for academic writing. Okay, so this is why it's a don't. Okay. Number two, it's a do. So we have Smith, 2016, states that global warming will affect the world population in many ways, so it cannot be taken lightly. So Smith here is the author. We have a date, the date when he or she wrote this article book about global warming. And the good thing here is that all the language is quite formal and academic, and we're using an outside source, an expert in the field, to support the claim that we are making. Also, you will be able to see that we're not using abbreviations. So this is definitely a do of academic writing. It's well written, there's no mistakes, it has advanced language. So it seems to be, it is a do of academic writing, okay? Number three is a don't. It says the possibility of carbon emissions being reduced is questionable. Well, if we look at it really at a glance, it seems that it's quite good, right? The language is good. It's written with academic style. The only small touch that I would give it to this sentence to be even better would be to add an outside source to support the claim, because it's quite a serious claim we're making here. So if you could add an author, a reference that would support this claim, that would make it even better and would add to the credibility of your academic writing. Finally, number four, nobody chose it, but it's actually a don't. Carbon emissions can't be reduced that easily. First, it has an abbreviation. It doesn't have, the references to support. And then look, it has a spelling mistake. Okay. So this is, I can't remember exactly what were the words that one of the participants used when we were defining academic writing, but it had to do with the fact that the language needs to be accurate, and you need to make sure that there's no mistakes when you submit your academic writing pieces to your teachers, okay? So if there is a mistake, it will lower your credibility as a writer as well. And this will make a great connection to what I'm about to say in my last slide about academic writing, about the process of writing, the writing process. So again, just to repeat, number 1, 3, and 4 were don'ts of academic writing. Now, let's make the connection with my next slide. This is about the writing process, okay? It's very, very important that you follow all these stages and steps and don't skip them, because the writing process is not simply writing and submitting it to your teacher. You need to go through these stages. So you have, for example, stage 1, which is the most important one. I always tell my students, if you don't understand the topic of your essay, the question, the prompt that is given to you, you might not succeed. You need to make sure that you understand it to be able to write about it, okay? So if you don't understand, ask your teacher, what exactly is it that you would like me to do, okay? Once you understand, you will start brainstorming for ideas. You have to take into consideration while doing the brainstorming, the audience and the purpose of your writing. Then you start an outline, okay? You start organizing your ideas, bullet points, and one very important stage would be gathering information and reading. This is so, so important. And I'm going to tell you, give you 2 reasons for this. One reason is, it's highly probable that your teacher might give you a topic that you're not very familiar with, you don't know much about. So reading about it will make you feel a little bit more confident about what to write, okay? And the other reason is for all those reasons I was saying before, that to add credibility to your claims and to your writing, using outside sources from the readings you've done will help you have a better academic writing text, okay? So don't forget to read and to gather information. After you do that, you might need to categorize information. So for example, you might have, imagine you have an advantages, disadvantages essay, which is a typical one in many schools, colleges, and universities. You will separate the information into advantages and disadvantages, for example. And it's possible that at this stage, you might have to outline again, edit your outline, fix it a little bit, okay? Then you start drafting. And finally, you need to proofread it. That's what the writer who wrote sentence number 4 in the slide before did not do, okay? So proofreading is extremely important, okay? And sometimes you might want to do some peer and teacher feedback. This is something I do in my classes. I ask my students to sit in pairs, exchange their texts, and give each other feedback on their texts so that they can improve. They know what areas are there for improvement. And I also provide feedback to my students one by one, or if they're working in pairs, I will do it in pairs. And after you receive feedback, make sure you incorporate the feedback in your revised and edited version to produce the final version. And again, I'm going to repeat this. It's very important that you incorporate feedback. Because I have seen in many occasions in some courses where I teach, for example, where I have 2 assignments. The 2 assignments are about completely different topics, but the first assignment I give feedback to my students about general academic writing issues in the first assignment. And they don't read it, unfortunately, and they don't take it into account when they write the second assignment. Even if it's an assignment about a completely different topic, the feedback I gave was about general academic writing, which if they had taken it into consideration could have improved the second assignment. So please do take into consideration your teacher feedback or your peers feedback as well. Okay, so that's all for me and the writing process. I hope you understood the main features of academic writing and the features, the writing process, what you should do and what you should avoid. And I'm now going to, I will not look at the questions yet. I'm sorry for that, because I don't want to go over Alvina's time. So Alvina will now cover her part. And then at the end, we will look at the questions, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you so much. Alvina, over to you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're enjoying our workshop so far. Now I'll be explaining the second half of our workshop, the second topic, which is presentation skills for higher education. So when we're moving on to the next slide, I want to ask a few warm-up questions just to get us started. So using Mentimeter, could you guys let me know how many of you feel comfortable presenting in front of a large audience? You feel relatively comfortable, somewhat comfortable, very comfortable? I know I personally used to have stage fright, so I would be on the lower end of the spectrum. So just using Mentimeter, let us know. Just chat. Okay. Okay. So I see there's a mix of answers for this. Some of you feel comfortable, some of you don't feel that comfortable, but hopefully by the end of this workshop, you will feel much more comfortable. Now, I want to ask another question in the next slide, which is, do you prefer presentations over assignments? Do you feel more comfortable presenting, or are assignments always just easier for you? Okay, I see a lot of you prefer presentations over assignments, which is good, which will make our workshop quite easy and much better. Okay, I see one person who says they like assignments. I also used to, but I think now I'm a mix as well. Okay, so thank you all for answering. Now, moving on to the next slide, I have another question, but that's more of a generic question to just get us started and introduce the topic. So why is it important to have good presentation skills? Well, if you go on to the next slide, you can see that presentation skills are important for a variety of different reasons. First of all, they allow you to effectively communicate your ideas with different people. They also allow you to convince and attract your audience, and they also allow you to explain your perspectives. Now, presentation skills, they're important for every single type of career. So for example, if you're studying medicine, you need to be able to, present your ideas to your patients, to your colleagues. If you're a business student, you need to be able to communicate, your product ideas or whatever financial numbers you have to present to your board of directors. So that's why it's very important to have good presentation skills. Now, moving on to the next slide, we can see that there are a few main elements of a good presentation, which are content and structure, design, body language and performance, and speech. But before we move into the next slide, I'd like to show you a video. And once you finish watching the video, I would like one or two of you guys to raise your hand and then unmute and let me know if you think that this is an example of a good presentation or a bad presentation, and maybe discuss why. So let's watch the video.
Hello everyone, welcome to Public Speaking. Today's first presenter is Ranjit, and I would ask everyone to give him their full attention. Chantal, could you dim the lights, please?
The British imposed a lot of unpopular taxes on the American colonists and didn't let them elect representatives to the British government. In retaliation, the Americans started to boycott British goods. In 1773, Americans in Massachusetts dumped a shipload of British tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. As punishment, the British imposed laws known as the Intolerable Acts, including the Quartering Act, which made Americans let British soldiers live in their homes. Some of the American colonies created a Declaration of Rights and Grievances, which they sent to Britain, but the British just sent soldiers to the colonies to put down any rebellion. This led to the first battles of the Revolution at Lexington and Concord.
Thank you, Ranjit.
Okay, So I hope everyone was able to see that and hear it as well. Now I'd like a few of you guys to volunteer and raise your hand and let me know if you think that this is an example of a good presentation or bad presentation and why. So is anyone raising their hand? Ms. Fida?
Yes, we have Tanzil. You're allowed to talk.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much for unmuting. It was, from my point of view, it was a bad presentation because nobody was listening. He was ashamed. He was feeling shy. He was not comfortable. And the main thing was that he was not doing eye to eye contact with the audience. So the audience was very like not satisfied with his presentation. So in my point of view, it was a bad presentation.
Yes,
He don't
exactly.
have that much confidence.
Yes, exactly. It's a very good point. As you mentioned, like he wasn't, keeping eye contact. He was very nervous and very unprepared. Also, you can say so that's a very good point, and that's something that we'll be discussing in the next few slides as well. So thank you, Tanzil.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
We have Hassan also. Yes, Hassan, please. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, the person was reading from a paper, so that makes everyone in the whole worried of watching. So they felt very bad because of his contribution. Everyone was, for example, let me say, he was not able to understand nothing because he was just talking without any face features or many of the feature of gestures he's supposed to use so that to make his voice clearer.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good point. He was just reading off a paper and there was no flow to his voice. He was just speaking in a very like one type of tone. He wasn't really emphasizing anything. Exactly. It's a very, very good point. Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Okay. Well, thank you all for your contribution. And yes, this was an example of a bad presentation, as mentioned by our participants. There was no eye contact. There was no proper communication. The tone of his voice wasn't consistent. It was just sort of boring and it wasn't engaging enough. So now let's look at the next slide, which talks to us about the content and structure. Now the content and structure is very important for the presentation, and the basic sort of structure of every presentation is, the first slide that has your title, your name, if you're in a group project, the names of your peers. Then it's also nice to have an agenda slide, which explains, the structure, what things you're going to cover like we did in this presentation. And of course, the general format of an introduction, a body paragraph, and a conclusion. It's also really good to have visual aids that helps the audience sort of understand and sort of visualize what you're trying to say. So, not everyone is, able to learn with just text. A lot of people are visual learners, so this is very good. And time period is also something that is very important. Make sure that you stick in the time frame that you are given. So if you are, below time, that means you're probably missing some kind of information. And if you go above time, that means you're probably saying things that aren't that necessary and you might just be, rambling at some point. Okay, so now moving on to the next element, which is the design. So design is pretty, basic. Make sure you have basic fonts, basic colors, nothing too funky, not, bright neon colors that distracts the audience. Try to have minimal text. If you have a whole, paragraph on your slide, the audience will just be reading the slide as opposed to just, looking at you and trying to understand what you are saying. Again, visual aids are always great, graphs, different pictures that will help the audience understand what you're trying to explain better. And also try to include high quality images. It just helps improve the quality of your presentation itself when you're using, high quality resolution pictures as well. Now, to examine this, let's look at two examples. So example number one, we have a slide over here. Now using the thumbs up or thumbs down option on Mentimeter, could you guys give me a thumbs up if you think that this is a good slide to have in your presentation? And if you think that this is a bad presentation slide, just give me a thumbs down. Okay, I got 1 thumbs up. Okay, I got 3 thumbs down. Okay, a bit of a mixed response. Okay. Okay, so majority of you say that it's not a good slide, and I agree with you. The reason for that being is because you can see that the background, first of all, is very distracting. There's a lot of pictures and you're trying to look at the pictures, so you get distracted from the text. And then the text itself is in neon yellow, so it's kind of hard on the eyes and it's difficult to read as well. So that's not an example of a good presentation slide. Now moving on to example number 2, we can see this slide. Now let me know if you think this is a good presentation or a bad presentation slide to have. Okay, I see thumbs up, so we're in a, okay, I see 1 thumbs down. I think this is a good presentation slide to have because it's very simple. You know, you have the design on the side, but the background is light and your text is dark, so it's very easy to read. It's not that distracting. So I think this is a good presentation slide to have because, you know, it's simple, but not harsh on the eyes. Now moving on to the next element, which is body language and performance. So the way your body moves and reacts when you're presenting is very important. So if you're presenting, don't circle around, don't move too much, don't move your hands too much because, you know, the audience can get distracted. And a lot of times they can sort of, you know, get annoyed that, you know, you're moving and they have to shift their head back and forth just to concentrate on you. So try to stay in a sort of similar stance as when you started and use a few hand movements. And if you want to point at something or if you want to, you know, do a gesture to explain something, that's fine. Also make sure that you have good posture and eye contact, as one of you mentioned earlier when we were looking at the presentation. Make sure that you're looking at your audience, give them somewhat of an eye contact every now and then so that they know that, you know, you're paying attention to them and they're engaged as well. Now, moving on to speech. So speech, the words that you say, the content that you're displaying, but also the way that you speak. Make sure to strengthen your vocabulary. One of the ways that I prepare for my presentations is I create a transcript. So basically, it's basically just a script. So I write everything that I plan on saying for each slide, and then I just, you know, make edits so I can, you know, try to add a more advanced vocabulary in my script to, you know, sort of elevate my speech and the things I'm saying. Also adjust your tone. That's something that we also mentioned earlier, that the person, he was just sort of speaking in a monotone. Try to speak louder for some things, try to emphasize more with your voice on certain topics. Also try to practice replacing filler words. For example, some people who are nervous, they'll use words like or like a lot. Try to, you know, practice replacing that with, you know, equal pauses. And then also learn how to improvise because we're all human. We cannot remember every single thing that we plan on saying. So always learn how to improvise and adapt. Now moving on to the next slide, we're going to show you another video. And this time you have to do the same thing. Let me know if this is a good presentation, bad presentation, and why. And just raise your hand once you're done.
Ranjit is first up again today, and I look forward to his new presentation. Jorge, could you dim the lights, please?
Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about the causes and effects of stress and how to cope with stress. Stress has many causes, including work or school, life events, changes, or unrealistic expectations of yourself. Some effects of stress include headaches, trouble sleeping, depression, or lack of concentration. I know how hard it can be to deal with stress. Last year, I started working after school to save for college, but I didn't have time to do homework and my grades went down. I had trouble sleeping, I only ate junk food, and I stopped hanging out with my friends. Fortunately, I was able to talk with a school counselor to manage my stress. She suggested that I reduce my hours at my job, eat healthy foods, and get some exercise. So I literally started walking home from school and bringing my lunch. I also asked my teachers for extra help. Now, I feel better. It's important to recognize when you're stressed and to ask for help. Thank you.
So could you guys raise your hand and let me know if this is a good presentation or bad presentation and why? So
We have Mr. Hassan. Mr. Hassan, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, I think this is a point that I wrote already. I feel this is a skill that the students can learn, because that boy, when started at the beginning, he was very low and he didn't even to say something. All the students all the students heard while he was talking. But at the end, this presentation is now is very clear. He attempted all these skills, and then I think he learned a lot. And this means that students can learn and can improve their skills of presentation during the semester.
yes, absolutely. Presentation skills are something, it's just like any other skill. The more you practice, the better you get at it and the more confident you feel. And yes, you're completely right. In the first video, he was, nervous and stuff, but then he went home, he practiced on it, he tried to, rehearsing, trying different things to improve. And you can see over here, the audience is very engaged. His posture, his performance overall is just so much better. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
We have Tanzil.
Yeah, this one was totally different, opposite from the other one. He was so brave. His body language was so perfect, so encouraging that the audience was totally focusing on his speech. Not a single man was not looking here and there. So his presentation was quite, you can say, energetic. He was so positive. His attitude was so positive. He was doing eye to eye contact with the audience. He was engaged, and he was telling each and everything so comfortably that the whole audience was looking at him, and at the end, they all clapping them. And so I
Yes,
would like to say that it was a very good presentation.
yes, for sure, Mr. Tanzil. You're absolutely correct. He was a lot more energetic. He was feeling confident. You can just tell by the way he's presenting. There was a lot more eye contact, and it's an example of a very good presentation. You can see he has a paper with him as well, but he's not even looking at it. It's just there as a reference if he needs some sort of reminder. So yes, you're absolutely correct. It's a much better improvement. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Saad.
That was a very good presentation. In the beginning, there was some nervousness, but he held himself together. He continued. He kept interacting with the audience instead of looking down on a paper. Body language was very positive, and he sympathized with the audience, which attracted them.
Yes, absolutely. You're completely correct. So he was, even though he might have been nervous in the beginning, he sort of powered through. He didn't let that affect him, and he continued to present, and it was a lot better. And he maintained eye contact with everyone, which forced the audience to be engaged with him as well, which is absolutely correct. Thank you, Mr. Saad. Okay, is that's all? Okay.
We have Mr. Hassan and Mr. Hussam also, if you want to take more participants.
Is that fine, Dr. Daniela? Do we have time?
Yes, let's listen to one more, I guess. I think we still have time, right?
Okay, great.
So, Mr. Hassan, you're allowed to talk. Please unmute yourself.
I have already said
okay.
my comment. Yeah.
Okay, then Mr. Hussam.
Yes, I can say that it's a very good presentation. He shared his experience with the audience, which is a very good point. And he was engaging with the audience, not like first time. He was interacting with them and sharing experience. And I think it's a very, very good point.
Yes, absolutely. He was more engaging with the audience, his focus, like you can tell that he prepared for the presentation for sure. Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you. Is that all, Miss Fida? Okay, great. So now just a few sort of a bonus slide for you guys because, we're in unpredictable times. We don't know how long this might last. So because of the current pandemic, you never know, you might have to give some online presentations. So just a few tips for online presentations. First of all, make sure that you have good connection so that, your voice doesn't lag, your video isn't stuck, everything just runs a lot more smoothly. Make sure your audio is very clear so that they're able to hear you properly. And, if there's pauses in between, sometimes it's distracting. And if your video is also stuck, it can be distracting as well. Make sure that you also have a quiet and simple environment. If, you have a lot going on behind you, the audience might not, pay attention to you. and they might be distracted. Or if you don't have the best background, you can just do what Dr. Daniela and I have done today, which is just use a virtual background. And yes, these are just some basic tips that you can use in future presentations. So,
Okay, Alvina.
presentation skills, yeah.
Yes, so you're done with your part, correct, Alvina?
Yep, I'm all done with the
Okay.
presentation.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alvina. Now we would like to invite you to do another sort of a quiz, a game, play a game with us, again, with a little bit of competition, makes it a little bit more interesting. So again, join us. You will see on Mentimeter again, asking you to join or just answer the question, because you have already joined before for question number 1, which I think it was Tanzil who was the winner at the time. Let's see if he can keep his first place now with the more questions, okay? So get ready for the question. You will see the questions there. The questions are all related to what we covered during this workshop. So academic writing refers to what? What is the correct answer? Okay, you have only 5 seconds. And time's up. Yes, okay. Right. The only reason why number 1 was not correct is that it's not just essays. It's a little bit more than essays. It's projects. It's any writing, as the correct answer says, any writing done at school. It was the first one was a tricky one, just to trick you a little bit. Okay. Next question. Let's see. Next question asks, you shouldn't avoid abbreviations in academic writing. Is it true or false? You shouldn't avoid abbreviations. True or false? Have 10 seconds. Okay. You should avoid, right? So it's false because you should avoid. The negative there might have tricked some of you as well, okay? So you should avoid abbreviations. So that's why it's false, okay? Now, next question. We have, I think, just 3 more questions. Now, question number 4. Academic writing may or should be supported by references to other studies on the topic you are writing about. Is it true or false? Okay, 3 seconds. And time is up. Yes, it is true. Very good, everybody. Nobody chose the wrong answer. Well done. Okay, 2 more questions. Which is not an element of a good presentation? Which is not an element of a good presentation? Design, expectation, speech, organization. Okay. Expectations was the correct answer. It was not included in the elements that Alvina mentioned in her part. Speech is a very important part, definitely. Organization also, you need to make sure that you follow a certain type of organization with the introduction to your topic, the development, and then a conclusion to your topic, pretty much as if you were writing an essay, for example, okay? And the last question before we know who our winner is. Which of these 2 is the best way to conclude a presentation? Thank you, everyone. That is all. I hope you liked my presentation. Thank you. I would like to invite your comments or questions. Which one do you think is the best way to finish? Okay, the best way would be to use the second one. It's a little bit more formal and also invites people to make comments or even ask questions, which is something we're going to do now, right? We're going to address your questions also right now by the end of our presentation. Okay, good. Let's see who is our winner. Okay. Oh, yes. Before it was Cynthia who was our winner before. I had forgotten about it. Let's see who is the winner now. Okay, Saad, very good. Excellent. Well done. Good job. Good job. You were definitely paying attention to all the things that we were mentioning here, or probably you are already an expert in presentations and academic writing. Well done, Saad. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your enthusiasm and participation in this. So we are now going to allow for some question and answers. I'm going to check the 2 questions that we have here. Okay, I think this was a test. Someone was testing. Link for record attendance, please. I think someone was wanting the link, but I guess it was already answered as well in the Zoom chat. I'm just going to check if there's any questions here. It's not really a question, it's just, yeah, it's just feedback on the presentation, on the video about the presentation. So there's no questions there. However, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, please raise your hand and we will listen to you. I'm going to check the chat box to see if there's any questions. Thank you to both panelists. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. If you have any questions, you still have a couple of minutes. So please raise your hand if you would like to ask anything to Alvina or I. Please go ahead. We're going to give you some seconds to raise your hand if you would like to.
If you have any questions about our workshop or any questions about, just university life, they'd like me to answer as a student, I'd be happy to help you. Or to Dr. Daniela as a professor at the university, we'd be happy to help you, happy to answer your questions.
Yes. Let me see if there's one question here. I can see someone wrote something. No, it's just saying thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the great presentation. Thank you so much, Rania, for your feedback. We are very happy and pleased. Thank you.
I think there's a question on the Q&A, like the question.
It's not a question. Is someone wrote the answer to I think it was the video presentation. Someone wrote the answer there instead of in the chat. So I don't think it was a question.
As well?
I'm sorry?
On Mentimeter, it says that there's one question.
Oh, there's one. Yes, thank you for calling my attention. How can I improve my vocab other than reading? One of the ways that I tell my students that could work, definitely reading is one of the ways to improve your vocabulary. Reading, listening to, for example, listening to the news in English, where you will find a lot of, in English or the language that you are supposed to be writing or you want to develop, of course. Watch the news, because in the news you will get a lot of advanced vocabulary that you can learn. And then one of the advice that I give to my students a lot is that they should start creating their glossaries. So whenever they find a word that is interesting and they would like to start using, just write them in a piece of paper, in a glossary, put in front of the words, put the meaning in another language, the language that supports your learning. For example, if it's Arabic, you write the meaning in Arabic, and then write a sentence with that word so that you know how to use that word. So using glossaries would be definitely a good way to develop your vocabulary. Another good way is to use apps like Memrise. I can write it here in the chat. Let me go here and write it for you. Memrise offers some, oh, sorry about that. Don't know what happened for that to appear. Memrise, yes, there. Memrise is a website that you can use, or an app that you can use to practice new vocabulary. You will have different courses with new words, advanced vocabulary. You have the academic writing list there ready for you to practice and use the words in different sentences. So I recommend that app if you want to develop your vocabulary as well. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. I hope I answered your question.
There is a question in the Q&A, Doctor, from Sarah.
I will go there in a minute, okay? So let me finish here. There's a question for you, Alvina. As you can see, Alvina, how can we improve our academics?
Academics. Does in terms of like academic performance, like grades and stuff, I believe is what they mean. Well, the way sometimes it can be really overwhelming, being university is always going to be harder than high school. But what works for me is just creating a schedule. I like to print out those calendars with those boxes per month. And then on each of them, I'd write a deadline that I have to do. And then based on my deadlines and priority, I, schedule what time I need to study and all of that. And I also, I always make sure that I have one day where I don't do anything. It's just for myself, so I can relax, so that I'm not stressed over everything. But all the other days I have some form of study time, practice time that I do. But I always make sure that there's one day for myself where I do something that's fun and something that's distracting for me. But also, if you're struggling in your academics, it's always a really good idea to speak to your instructor, or sometimes speak to your peers, which is always very helpful, and they're always very happy to help you at any stage that you have.
Thank you, Alvina. Thank you. I'm going to answer the question now in the Q&A. Feda, how to reduce nervousness before a presentation? Alvina, do you have any advice?
I would say practice a lot. What I like to do, as I mentioned, I like to prepare like a script for myself, and then I just like to sit by myself, practice over and over. Then I like to turn to my mirror and just speak to myself. And then sometimes if I'm with my family, I'll practice on them. I'll practice on my friends. So it's always a really good idea. Also, if you're nervous, what I used to do is I used to get one of those cue cards. They're like this small, and I would get a bunch of them, and I would just write the key words per slide that I want to talk about. And that would also really help me feel a lot better, because if I forget something, I could always just glance down and I know what I have to talk about in the slide. So that's something that helps reduce my nervousness when I'm presenting.
I would like to add to that to say that I definitely agree with Alvina. I would like to say that people don't need to feel embarrassed if they're nervous about presentations. This is very, very normal. If we could share with you this, Alvina and I practice also a lot before this presentation as well. This is something we need to do as if we want things to be successful. We made sure that everything was, all the slides were in the place where we wanted them to be. We had Ms. Feda with us to make sure that technical issues would not happen, although they might happen anyway. We also practice one or two times before to make sure that things would go okay. So I definitely agree with Alvina that practicing and practicing and practicing and using those cue cards will help, definitely. I hope that answers the question, Saad. Let's see, I can see some more. We should speak wrong or right to gain confidence. I think these are comments and not questions, I guess. Okay, all right, okay. I don't think there are any more questions. So I think we can finish here, right, Feda? Do you see any other questions? Anybody else raising their hands?
No questions, no more questions.
Okay, so I would like to just say thank you so much for being with us today, for participating, and for all the questions you had. We hope our workshop helped answer some of the questions that we had at the beginning. Thank you again so much. Alvina, over to you to close the presentation.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone once again for attending our workshop. I hope by the end you all feel a bit more confident with academic writing and presenting. And I hope you had a chance to feel a bit more confident about these sort of skills, and you feel confident moving forward in your high school career and your university career, or just your personal career as well. And yeah, thank you all for engaging with us. You have been a lovely audience, and it's just been a really great pleasure working with all of you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Would you still like to say something, ask a question?
Sorry for interrupting. I just want to ask
No worries.
that one last question, that how to be a good listener? How to become a good listener?
A good listener. Alvina, I think this question is for you.
I think it's a very important, first of all, quality to be a good listener. One of the things that I've learned is you always learn more when you listen compared to when you speak. Because when you speak, you're just repeating everything that you know. But when you listen, you learn something. You have a higher chance of learning something that you wouldn't have known. So how to be a good listener, I'd say in classes, especially when you're listening to your instructor speaking to you, it's always a really good idea to be taking notes on the side, because you're reinforcing what you're listening to, and it also helps trigger it back into your memory next time that you look at it. So be a listener, but also, make sure that you have a way of retaining the information that you're listening to, and you can refer back to that in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye. I hope to see you. We all hope to see you in the future in other workshops. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.